Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to demystify a really powerful concept, something that's totally changing how organizations see and interact with their own data. We're talking about building a true digital twin of their operations. I mean, just think about any big organization, right? An airline, a hospital, a manufacturer, they're incredibly complex. You've got customers, products, operations, all interacting in millions of different ways. So the big question is, how do you possibly make sense of all that? Well, I'll tell you one thing. The answer is not in more spreadsheets or a bunch of disconnected data tables. No way. It's actually about creating a smart, interactive model of the business itself. So, okay, let's dive in and really explore what that means.
Okay, so to start, we really have to get our heads around this fundamental problem, a problem that pretty much every organization is facing today. And it really boils down to this: a massive disconnect.
So look, on one side, you've got your raw data, right? Just endless tables filled with things like flight IDs, customer numbers, product codes, just a sea of numbers and letters. But then on the other side, you have how your business actually thinks and talks. People don't talk in flight IDs. They talk about real-world things like aircraft, customers, and flight routes. And you can see it, right? There's this huge gap between those two worlds.
So how do we bridge that gap? Well, the solution is this really cool concept called an ontology. And this is the key to creating what we call a true digital twin.
The best way to think about an ontology is as the master blueprint for your entire business. Seriously, it's not just another database. Not at all. It's a dynamic, living model that maps all that raw data to the real-world things it actually represents. And what that does is it creates a shared vocabulary, a common language for everyone from the data scientists all the way up to the CEO.
And the whole thing is built on a really simple but powerful idea. First, you define what's called an object type. Just think of it like a template for a concept, the idea of an airline. Then, once you have the template, you create specific objects, which are the actual real-world instances of that type. So in our example, that would be the airline Fresh Air Inc.
So this digital twin, it really has three key parts, three building blocks. You've got your objects. Those are the nouns of your organization, right? Your planes, your airports, your customers. Then you've got links, which define all the relationships between them, how they're all connected. And finally, you have actions. These are the verbs that let you actually interact with all those objects in a really controlled, meaningful way.
Okay, so now that we get the basic structure, let's see what happens when you actually put it to work. Because once you have this blueprint in place, that's when the real magic begins. You can start asking some really complex questions about your business, but in a way that feels totally natural. So instead of having to write all this complex code and join a bunch of different database tables, you know the drill, you can just ask the model a straightforward question. And boom, you get a direct, simple answer. The beauty of this is just how simple it is on the surface. The ontology is doing all the heavy lifting, right? It's handling all the complexity behind the scenes, searching through all the aircraft objects and their properties to find that answer for you. And it's not just for simple lookups. You can also ask for, aggregated information. Let's say you want to know which of your hubs are the most critical to your entire network. Well, the ontology can instantly analyze all 320 of Fresh Air's routes and just give you a ranked list. Just like that. There's no manual counting, no writing complex queries. It's already done. And look, this gives us so much more than just a list, right? It shows us their relative importance. We can see immediately that just one airport, CLT, accounts for a full 20% of all route origins for the entire airline. Now that is a powerful insight. But here's a really key point. An ontology isn't some static report that's out of date the second you print it. No, it's a living, breathing model that can evolve and grow right alongside your business. So let's say a new business process comes up. Like, you need a better way to manage flight delays. You don't have to start all over from scratch. You just add that new concept directly into the digital twin you've already built. And building on the model is this totally logical process. It's just step by step. First, you define the new noun, in this case, the flight alert object. Then, you link it to the things that already exist, connecting it to a specific flight. And finally, you define a new verb, an action that lets your users actually do something with it, like assigning a root cause for that delay. Okay, so this brings us to the crucial point. Why go through all this effort to build a digital twin?
I mean, what's the ultimate payoff here?
Well, the payoff is honestly transformative. Instead of having all these siloed teams that don't talk to each other, you get a shared language. All of a sudden, your marketing team and your supply chain team, they're finally speaking the same language because they're looking at the exact same version of reality. And that lets you build workflows that aren't just connected, but are actually intelligent. And maybe most importantly, this whole thing gets your data ready for the age of AI.
And this quote right here really gets to the heart of it. Think about it. You can't build a skyscraper on a swamp, right? It's the same with AI. Clean, well-understood, and connected data is the absolute bedrock of any successful AI initiative. And Ontology provides that solid foundation. It's what turns that chaotic data swamp into actual, usable, AI-ready intelligence. So you see, this model isn't just about understanding your business as it is today. It's really about building a more intelligent, a more responsive, and a more connected version of it for tomorrow. And that's it for this explainer. Thanks for tuning in.